All right, I got part two edited and fixed this weekend, so hopefully y'all can watch this and figure out kind of the last steps. I did not get in the video of me putting the two cases together, the two halves of the case together, but I'll explain that a little towards the end here, what you need to do there. Here I'm trying to get the metal dowels out to put them in the other side of the transmission so that I can hold the gasket in there. As you'll find out later, if I would have put the two halves together, um, I could have turned this, um, kind of more sideways to be able just to put it on without having to do this. But I couldn't tilt the transmission over because that main input shaft there will pull out. You'll lose a washer that's on the end of the shaft there. My recommendations would be to go ahead and put gasket maker on the half of the transmission and go ahead and put that other half on before you do this part. Um, it works either way, but it's a little bit more finicky the way that I'm doing it. When you go to put this half on, you got to make sure you get that high-low lever in the gear there correctly, and you kind of just slide it in there as you're making sure that you have that lined up, and it should go right in. If you were doing it the way that I'm doing it without putting the two halves together, just make sure you don't pull on that shaft or allow that shaft to shift down, because at this point you have that little washer on the end of the input shaft on the high-low box that we just put on, so you don't want that to fall off down in there. Another thing that I forgot to do um, was torque down these bolts here. Um, I kind of have a feel for it. Of knowing about how much they were, and it wasn't, really off or anything like that. But I did go back in and make sure that I torqued these with a torque wrench. And I'm just checking here to make sure that I've got uh, the gear there with the lever engaging properly. And there's a little spring right there that it keeps that lever spring loaded back that you'll have to flip into place. A screwdriver works best for that. And I'm just applying some gear oil in here in the four-wheel drive box because um, it takes special tools to get the gearbox apart, um, which I didn't have at the time. So I just washed it out the best I could. Um, but I was applying the gear oil there. I later on had to get those tools and disassemble the four-wheel drive box because I had bad bearings in there from the metal getting put through the transmission. That was the only thing that I could not disassemble, um, and I ended up having to disassemble it later on. I didn't get the video of that, but you can look in the manual and it'll show you the tools that you need to get to be able to disassemble the four-wheel drive box. I do apologize going off camera there. I was trying to hold the input shaft into the transmission so I didn't drop that washer off that I mentioned and get the four-wheel drive box to slide on. Again, make sure that you torque these to the proper torque specifications listed in the manual. At this point, I realized there were two more bolts, so I loosened the four up that I had just snugged down just to make sure that I got everything tightened evenly and that I didn't have something binding up. At this moment right here, you're going to be able to see that the input shaft has slipped up and pulled out a little bit. I have not noticed it on the video yet, but to keep yourself from having to deal with this, I'd recommend to go ahead and put the two halves together um, because you're not going to have to worry about that shaft pulling out and the washer dropping off the end of it. So I ended up having to disassemble this thing again to put that washer back on to make sure that you know it wasn't floating around in the case. But yeah, right there, I had a moment of realization had what I had done. So uh, definitely frustrating. Here's a picture of the gasket maker on the half, and then a short clip of the transmission back together. Thanks for watching, and I hope this helps somebody tackle their project.